welcome to Sumptuous Living. We've decided that we're going to start doing some really great kitchen tips and recipes and everything on Mondays. Monday at noon, so set your calendar and start watching us. But this is our first one, and you know, when you're in the kitchen, the first thing you need to know is prep, like easy prep, chopping and all that kind of stuff. And being a self-taught cook, if you've looked at all of our recipes, they're all about big flavors, but they're also about making your life easy. So today I'm excited because when I'm teaching cooking classes around Atlanta or on stage or what have you, I'm constantly in the kitchen with people who have never maybe even never held a knife. Totally have had that happen, because if I do a corporate event and there's a bunch of youngins maybe or whatever, but are not very keen on doing cooking at home, and so they don't know how to cut a pepper. They don't know how to cut an onion or how to make their life really simple. And so today, whether you think you know how to cut a pepper, baby, you don't know how to cut a pepper, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to just go through some of the things that make my kitchen prep super fast, like lightning quick, because I don't have time for nothing. And if you have a question about how to cut certain things, put it in the comments below, or tell me where you're watching from, because I would love, love, love to know and hear from you, and what your favorite weeknight meals are maybe. But first things first is your cutting board. If you're doing any kind of meat or something that you know is going to get real grubby or messy, you can always use like a plastic cutting board. And I love the ones with the rubber on the back so they don't move, but you can use those because they go into the dishwasher and they're clean and sanitized and all that kind of stuff. You can't put your wooden ones in the dishwasher, so I would never cut raw chicken on my cutting board. That's my wooden one. The other thing to go ahead and tell you about is, this is a super duper trip because a lot of us have hard surface countertops. If I didn't have this rubber mat, which is just the same stuff that I use to line my shelves, I have a remnant piece of it always in my drawer, and it also does double duty to open a jar of, you know, spaghetti sauce or something like that. But that makes it so my cutting board cannot move, and that is a huge deal, because if you have a moving surface, you can't be safe when you're cutting with things. And then the other thing are, you know, just your knives, you know, sharp knives. A dull knife, you'll cut yourself easier with a dull knife than you will with a sharp one. So make sure that you have a decent knife. And I am a big knife, big cutting girl, big cutting board kind of girl, tall chick, big things. So paring knives are something you'll never see in my hands. Ever, ever, ever. I love big chef knife. I even cut apples with them, and I'm going to show you how to do that, because if you're a preschool mom and you have 200 million apples to cut for snack time, that'll get you through it. So first, let's go ahead and start with the pepper, right? Let's start with the red pepper, because these things are like, what, $4 a piece, and I still have college to pay for, so I'm going to show you the easiest way that you can cut a pepper. You take your pepper and you start kind of down a bit from the top and cut straight through the stem and everything. And I have a garbage bowl. Garbage bowls are always your best friend. I'm going to take my giant man-sized hands in there and pull that top part out. And any of the white rib meat you can go ahead and pull out as well. Give it a tap to release any remaining seeds. And then you wind up with completely perfect, of no waste, zero waste with this pepper. And then that way, if I want chops, I can do chops. If I want strips, I can do strips. And chopping is the motion of the ocean, straight like you're swimming butterfly or riding a horse, that kind of motion. And you go straight in one direction, and so then if you need strips, you're perfect with that. But then if you want to go ahead and chop it into smaller chops, you give it a quarter turn and keep the whole thing together, and that's how you get quarter chops that way. So that's easy. If I was grilling, I would go ahead and cut it in half and then maybe put it in bigger chunks as well. So think about what you're going to cook and how you want to cook it, and then cut it according to that. So that's our pepper. Easy, right? I'm going to do that method one more time and show you guys how to do that chop with the pepper, because it literally, I've had people tweet me, no waste, you know, because it's so awesome. So go straight down and pull out. This one has a lot more seeds, so you can see I'm going to pull it straight out. If this was a poblano pepper, this would work too, but I would have gloves on because those things are deceptively hot. and jalapenos and what have you. And then this little guy, his stem was holding on a little bit, so I just gave it a nudge. And again, giving it a tap will release all of the seeds. And then you're left, and if you wanted to stuff it, that's the perfect way to stuff it. Have a little cap and all that. So that's how you chop a pepper. All right, next, let's do an onion. Because that's always like the biggest question, right? Is how to chop an onion. So if you go straight down on both ends, I do both ends. I know that there's a lot of cooking shows where you have to go and do the little, like the professional chef prep kind of way. I just don't do it that way. I feel like it takes too much time. So I take both ends off and cut it straight down the middle, just like that. And then that gives me a surface that I can go ahead and peel off the outer layer, get the skin off, again, into my garbage bowl, because that makes my life easy. And it saves time from having to run back and forth to either the garbage disposal or the trash can or what have you. And now I have two flat surfaces to chop with. So if I wanted to do strips, a lot of times I just go straight down like this because I saute so many things. Sauteing is like so quick, so easy. And I also do things really big and chunky because if you have a kid that doesn't like onions, doesn't like peppers, it keeps the dinner table a lot more fun because it's easy enough to identify, big enough to pull out and pull off to yourself, and you can quietly and discreetly pull it off to the side of your plate, and I don't need to hear about it because it hasn't infected the whole dish. You know, when it's in bigger chunks, it's quicker prep, and kids don't have to give you a hard time about it because if you cut it tiny, then they won't eat the whole thing because they know the onions and peppers are in there. Not that I'm a democratic cook, because I don't run a democratic kitchen. You eat what I get. You know, you get what you get and you don't pitch a fit kind of a thing. But this makes my life a lot easier because eventually they will come to like peppers and onions. But today, if they're being a pain in the patootie about it, then they can go ahead and discreetly pull it off to the side of the plate. So if I wanted to do smaller pieces, I would go ahead and on the other way, the long way, cut it that way. And then I would go and do my chops. I would give it again a quarter turn. And when I get to a big piece like this, I tip it over because there's more surface area and it's more stable if it's now on the longer side. So then I go ahead and tip it over and I've got them all in chops. So either whether you have slices or you have little choppies, then you're all whatever you need to cook. And again, a sharp knife is really the only way to not cry with an onion. It's about crushing the membrane. So there's tricks of lighting a candle and all that just might make your house not smell like onion, but it's not really going to make you not cry. And I use sweet onions a lot, like probably pretty exclusively. Sweet onions and red onions are my two favorite. And they tend to not make you cry so much as like a Spanish onion, I think. Okay, next. Let's see. Do we got anybody who is looking at carrots? Let's look at carrots. Okay, so obviously I've peeled these and it's a round thing, and round things roly-poly, and you don't want that. So I always cut one end off, and then I cut it straight down the middle, straight long ways down. And if I wanted just whole slices, I would just go ahead and do that. If I want half moons, I hold it and I go straight down the middle. If I want little chops, I'll go ahead and do the same thing and give it after giving it a quarter turn that way. And then I've got it where as I cut it, then it's already pre-chopped because I gave it those few extra chops down the lengthwise of it. See how easy that is? And again, into the cutting board. So let's do that again. And you can do it times 2. Of course, the more you multiply up, the better. So holding from the big end, I hold it steady and with the tip of my knife go straight down. And then give it a quarter turn and do the same thing, straight down. And then do the same thing here. And this way we're going to do 2 at a time. All right. And then holding them together. And do you see how my knife never leaves the surface of the cutting board? I'm not picking it up and then pushing it, okay? I'm keeping contact. And if you're one who does maybe pick up and push, or if you are a puller or a pusher or whatever, you do it a different way. It's going to take a little practice, but it's good to do. It makes your life a lot easier once you get it straight. But just holding them together and then giving a push. And don't go all the way down to the nubbies. Just go ahead and put it into the garbage bowl. All right, next. Ooh, I'm gonna have a good stir fry. Look at all this prettiness. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Oh, and a lot of people go ahead and they pull with their knife that way. I have a better thing. If you're ever trying to move stuff, it's called a food taxi. This is one of my favorite food scraper, whatever. We call it a food taxi at our house because it taxis the food from the cutting board over to the cooking surface. So that makes things really easy because when you scrape your knife on your cutting board, that dulls the surface of the knife. So if you want to do that, use the back of the knife, okay? All right, so next, squash is about the same thing. However, I'll also show you, again, you don't need to cut both ends because you're going to have a nub that you're going to throw away anyways. So if you want to go ahead and give yourself a flat surface, you could do that. And then hold them together. I love squash, especially keeping it where it still has a tooth. Let's put that guy down there. Where it still has, it's not turned to mush, you know, you can get some nice caramelized char on it. My kids actually love it with almost like a veggie medley with corn and peppers and onions and garlic all sauteed up hot. I put all the other veggies in and leave squash for last. So that it can go and be chopped and still have that tooth to it. All right, so next, let's do all the veggies first. So we go through a ridiculous amount of lettuce in this house, both with lunches and salads and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to be really good about having the kids eat more salad. So this was a trick I learned. We're going to go ahead and go straight down, keeping it intact. Straight down this way. And I'm going to give it a couple, depending on how small I want it to be, I'm going to give it a couple of nice little cuts. I'm going to turn it a quarter ways also and do it again. And then I'm going to hold the ends and cut it, and it's already going to be pre-chopped. If you let the whole lettuce head stay together and give it those preliminary cuts, then you see how when it comes out, it's already pre-chopped. You don't have to then hold all the lettuce leaves together because this is already doing it for you. So that is a really handy because then you can take this whole thing, put it into your salad spinner, get it all washed up, and spin it out, and you're set for salad for the whole week. Because those pre-bought ones, I don't know about you, but those pre-bought packages, they go bad fast. So I always chop mine at home, and it's cheaper, a heck of a lot cheaper. All right, next, let's do an avocado. And an avocado is super simple. Let me give my knife a little wipe. Oh, if you have, going back to the carrots, y'all, the baby carrots that are already peeled, this is the easiest weeknight dinner cheat. If you need carrots for a class, it does not, or a recipe, it does not have to be your whole carrot. You could easily, they're already bite-sized, they're perfect for chopping up into little rounds like that, and they're so easy because you don't have to do any prep work for them. Just pull them out and put a couple together and chop those up. Okay, so now we're to our avocado. I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to go all the way around, and if you notice, I don't hardly ever use the top of my knife, I use the middle third of it. So I'm going to go all the way around, and that is going to allow me to go ahead and pull it apart that way. Then I can embed the knife. This is a very fresh avocado, so it doesn't want to give up its pit. But I embed the knife in that way, and with my thumb, I can push it off of the knife, away from myself. I don't ever grab it like that and pull it out. I push it away into my garbage bowl. And this next part you can do with a butter knife, or you can do it with your sharp knife if you really are good with your knives. But a butter knife will work fine. I am not going through the avocado. I can hold and I can feel the knife hitting the skin, and so if I want slices for maybe a sandwich or a burger or something like that, I can stop right there. If I want cubes, I do that again, and then again, quarter turn. That's all we have to do, just like what we did with everything else. Give it a quarter turn, and then with a spoon, you're going to scoop it right out. You can get between the skin and the flesh and scoop it out and make it perfect for your salad, for anything that you're going to do that way. It's so good. And I don't have green gook underneath all of my fingers. So one time I saw someone peeling an avocado, I'm like, stop. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? So I have no mess that way, which is great.
So Wanda is saying that she watches a lot of cooking shows and love them, and she's learned a lot of stuff, but she's still afraid of knives. She's cut herself way too many times. Do you have any suggestions for her?
Making sure your knife is really sharp and making sure you have a knife that you're comfortable with the handle with. There are different kinds that are maybe more round knives as far as handles go, and you don't have to have the whole knife set. You need to have the right knife for the right job. Like a bread knife is a perfect thing to cut citrus or tomatoes. You need that serrated. A lot of times, because something's either not on a flat surface and you're dealing with something round, or if you, like a tomato is a pain in the patootie to cut. I mean, it's such a pain in the butt, but if you're not using a serrated knife, it's worse. These cut through tomatoes like butter. So your bread knife, or I love this smaller utility knife that's serrated. I use it for everything. Citrus, we eat a ridiculous amount of citrus here. I zest it. If you look at any of my recipes, it's basically, I've loaded a lot of our recipes with either alcohol or citrus. And this will cut any citrus. It'll cut tomatoes like a champ. And it never, hardly ever gets dull because it's so nice and serrated. So that would be something to do and check also. But sharp knives, people think that sharp knives are harder to cut yourself with, and it's actually a dull knife that is worse. But having a flat surface is pretty key. So let me show you how to do a grapefruit or any kind of citrus that maybe you're doing some fun salad and it needs segmented oranges. So if you cut the ends of both sides off, that gives you, again, a flat surface. Flat surface is like the word of the day, right? So we've got a flat surface. Let me clean off our board a little bit. And then I'm going to take this serrated knife again and go around the curvature of the orange or the grapefruit. I use grapefruit a lot for cocktails too. So I'm following the skin and going around the end. And then I can't resist these because I want to eat, like, if there's any flesh left on them. Ideally, you're trying to omit as much of the flesh as possible and keep it in the grapefruit. But
Priscilla's wanting to know
hey, Priscilla,
where we can take our knives to be professionally sharpened other than Williams-Sonoma.
If you're in the Atlanta area, Cook's Warehouse does an amazing job with sharpening knives. They're fantastic. Any of your gourmet cooking stores will definitely have knife sharpeners. You can also there's different kinds that you can have at home. There's some electric ones that if you go through it, they do a pretty good job, but a professional job of sharpening your knives at a store will do an amazing job. And it's probably maybe about once or twice a year if you're a normal everyday type of chef. Obviously, if you use them all the time and you're like gung-ho, it may be more often, but you might get a lot out of taking them 1 to 2 times a year to a professional place, and then maybe having an electric one that can kind of give you some, like, a knife fix-me-up or a knife spruce-up. So now that I've got all of these, and these peels are awesome for making flavored simple syrups. So if you've got this and maybe some ginger, a grapefruit ginger simple syrup, and you can check the website, sumptuousliving.net, for how to make amazing flavored simple syrups. But so a lot of times the traditional way would be, at this point, you would go and between each segment, pull out a perfect little segment of orange. But again, I don't have the patience for that. So I cut it straight in half. And then I go, just like our onion, I go in long strips on the long ways. And then I give it a quarter turn, and I cut it into little bite-sized pieces, because that tiny little bit of membrane is not going to make anyone have a fit. I hit a seed, but that's okay. Is not going to make anyone have a fit. First off, they're not doing any of the cooking, and they're certainly not doing the dishes, and this is delicious. So this versus this, let me pull out this other segment. There's very little difference in it, and this took a lot less time than going little membrane by little membrane difference. that will not last long because I inhale grapefruit. It's my favorite thing ever. Ever, ever, ever. So good. We have a spiced salt rim grapefruit margarita on the website. So yummy. Okay, last to talk about is, again, apples and then, again, citrus. So let me clean my board up for a second. And because I want to show you this clever way to deal with apples. So, and this goes for pears too, because a lot of times I'll do a pear tart or pears for a salad, and you got to whip through that stuff fast. And I think if you have a tiny little paring knife, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work so fast. So here is, this is a fun, so Santuko knives. Also, oh, the question about not cutting yourself. A Santuko knife stays sharper for longer. It's these ones with the little rivets inside. And they stay really sharp, really long. And they also help the food slide off of the actual knife. Sometimes they get stuck to it. And so that may help you not cut yourself as well. So for an apple, I'm going to go straight down. And then again, I have a flat surface, right? Flat surface is our favorite thing in the planet. And then I'm going to do, again, straight down in half. And then that leaves me, this is the best part, because I can whip through these so crazy fast. So I'm going to do an angled cut straight across, and that removes the pit part of our, the core of our apple. And then it gives me a flat surface again. Flat again is our favorite thing of the day. So if I need slices, then that flat surface is not moving around for me. And I can cut it real easy for either a pie or just for snacks for the kids. Or, and then if I needed cubes, because I already have those, I give it a quarter turn, just like everywhere else. And we got cubes really fast. Okay, so that is how you do an apple. And so when you get the hang of this, feel free to hold your things together if you need to. When you get the hang of this, you can really whip through them. Another way to prevent from cutting yourself is keeping your fingers in. A lot of times I see people like this. No, no, no. Your hands are around the knife and your hands are here, so don't have like remnant parts of your body. But you know, sometimes you think these things go without saying and they don't. You gotta be reminded, don't do that. So let me figure out a spot to put our apples. Ooh, this is gonna be a good lunch today. All right, so last but not least, this isn't really a cutting thing, but it's like a major component to all of your cooking, that even if you are still getting your hang of your food and you're cutting and cooking and you're trying new recipes, the best way to make a recipe completely come alive is with citrus. Brightness and fresh herbs and citrus will totally change something that maybe you've been making forever and ever and ever. And at the last minute, you throw in some lemon zest. It's amazing. It makes all the difference. Orange zest, lime zest, all that. So this is what's called a rasp. It's a microplane zester. I love the ones that have a nice handle, and if you're one, you can grate garlic on it. But if you are one who does grate garlic on it, own two different ones that are two different colors, because you'll never inevitably get the garlicky flavor out of this, even though it's stainless steel. And the best way to get garlic off of your hands is just to rub your hands on your stainless steel sink. Instantaneously gone. All the garlic, I don't know what it is. It's like magic. But have one for your citrus and one for your garlic or your onions or whatever if you're going to do that. And sometimes I know people who pull it across the top of the lemon. I like to be stable, again, flat surface, so I put it straight onto the board and I rotate the lemon or the lime or the orange in a real fast manner. But you can see I'm only getting the colorful part of the rind off. I'm not getting the white going all the way down to where I'm hitting the flesh of the skin. It's just the outer layer. And then I wind up with all that. It smells so good in here. All that gorgeous lemon zest. I almost don't ever even cut open a lemon without zesting it first. I'll put the zest in a baggie. You can freeze zest. It freezes awesome. And then it's like little lemon snow for your recipes. So it's never wasted, because you cannot zest it once you've cut it and you have juiced it. That happens a lot in cooking classes. You'd be surprised. People go ahead and cut it and then they juice them. And you're like, well, how do you plan on getting the zest off of it now? We got to get a whole new one. So my two favorite ways to juice are these two things. This one's really cool because, see, it's got holes to catch the seeds, so it's a regular reamer, a hand reamer, and it will go ahead and juice out that way, and all the juice falls through and the seeds stay in the contraption, which is super handy. And then the other way is by using these regular juicers. The cut side, I see a lot of times people put it because it looks like the shape. The cut goes opposite the shape. The cut side of the lemon goes towards the hole so that the juice can escape. And then what you're doing is you're basically inverting the lemon that way. Don't buy the green lime one because American limes are too small, are too big for that that size of a juicer. I think I even have one because I made a mistake of buying the green one because I use a lot of limes. But American limes are too big for this. So I use this one, and I use the one that's for the oranges a lot. And so there's no point in owning this one. Just get the bigger ones. And it's almost like it can't be too big. The orange one would do fine for all of your citrus. But I think that's it. I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown because this is the stuff that makes my life and my food prep quick and easy, because I never know what I'm making for dinner until I open the fridge or the pantry and see what I've got to work with. So if you know how to cut them up quick, it can get dinner on the table quicker. So make sure that you put any comments you want in the comments below. Tell me where you're watching from. And if you have any more questions afterwards, I'll answer all your questions. Bye! Catch us next week.